Now, you had Toby Jones in the studio. No, he didn't. He was down the line, wasn't he?
He was on the programme. He was on the phone, but he was in Venice.
The Berberian Sound Studio. So I'm aware that you have talked about this last week, but I'm not sure whether James actually reviewed it. So the story is, Toby Jones stars as this guy Gilderoy, who's an uptight English sound engineer from Dorking, who goes to Italy to do the sound on a movie called The Equestrian Vortex, which he thinks is going to be a movie about horses, because it has the word equestrian in the title.
Which is fairly kind of logical position to take.
And he has with him these tapes of a little documentary of British country life in which he's done the sound on, which sounds of birds, sounds of running streams, sounds of pottery. He also has with him a series of letters coming from his mother, telling him about the bird life in the garden and wishing him to be well, make sure he eats all right. Once he gets to the Berberian Sound Studio, he discovers that what he's doing is actually a giallo slasher film, which he has no knowledge and is originally quite shocked by. And there was a lot of discussion last week with Toby about what we see in the film is him making the most disgusting, scrungy noises using vegetables. There was a question again about vegetarianism, incidentally, just to clarify. Yes, as many people have tweeted, I eat fish, therefore pescatarian, not vegetarian, or vegequarian, as I believe people now call it.
Not interested in that.
No, thank you, just passing on. So anyway, what you then get is this drama about somebody being sucked into the world of this film, something which they're completely shocked and horrified by originally, but as the film goes on, they become drawn into the world of the film. You never actually see the film. What you see is the people doing the sound effects for the film. You see the actors coming in to do the screaming. You see the Foley stuff done, making scrungy, strange sounds. Now, what Toby talked about when he was on last week was how interesting that is in terms of the way in which people actually do put together the sound effects for horror films, and that is also true. If you have a love of 60s, 70s Italian horror cinema, there is just plenty in here to enjoy, in the same way as that film Amer came out a couple of years ago, which was a film which was very much a kind of an homage to the giallo genre. Giallo obviously meaning yellow, because that was the pages of the paperbacks from which the crime thriller genre was originally derived. If you're a fan of Dario Argento, you know the kind of the area that we're in. What I thought was most interesting about this, however, was, for a start, it reminded me of a number of films that I really liked, but are only tangentially connected. Things like, for example, The Dream of the Mad Monkey, which is a fantastic film, which nobody has seen, was released in America as Twisted Obsession with Jeff Goldblum, about somebody who writes a movie that they then wish wasn't made, and they get drawn into the world of it. It reminded me of that film, H.G. Clouseau's Inferno, Henri-Georges Clouseau's Inferno, which was about the making or the unmaking of Inferno, in which we see all these really strange, psychedelic, psychotic images, and the movie attempts to recreate the madness of the director as he was drawn into the world of the film. It talks about cinema as incantation. The director Santini has a kind of high priest air to him. And the more I looked at it, the more that idea of somebody being drawn into an alternative world through this strange magical incantation of cinema, and specifically the sound of cinema, seemed to open up more and more doors, and it was like a Pandora's box. It became more the complexities, the depths, the layers fell away. Now, last week when I was listening, I know that what James said was actually he felt that it didn't have the third act didn't necessarily put himself together. He liked it at the beginning when it kind of made logical, linear narrative sense, and liked it less toward the end. I felt that actually the way the narrative went owed a great debt to, for example, Videodrome, the David Cronenberg movie, which incidentally apparently they're remaking. Why would you remake Videodrome? In which somebody becomes completely drawn into the world of videotaped violence and ends up literally physically communing with their television set, which has given us one of the most striking images of 1980s cinema of Max Wren with this kind of video cassette slot in his stomach. And it seemed to me that what you have here is partly in the same area as that. The director is Peter Strickland, whose previous work, incidentally, was also very, very good. Drew on rape revenge narratives and great wrathful revenge cinema, and did something really interesting with that. So he's obviously somebody who's genre literate, who understands the genre, isn't just nodding his head towards it and paying casual homage to it. He's taking genres that he understands, turning them upside down, doing something with them that perhaps you wouldn't have expected before. Obviously, at the centre of it, there is a brilliant performance by Toby Jones, who is just great as the guy who's out of his depth and yet somehow is discovering his own self. I mean, I know a lot of people have compared it to, for example, Michael Powell's Peeping Tom, which I think there is a comparison there. I would say the strongest comparison is with Cronenberg's Videodrome. I want to see it again because I thought there was so much in it. Yes, it's absolutely true that if you're a fan of that Italian classic, then yes, there is much to love in terms of the period detail and the nods and the winks. But there's so much more than that. Like those great movies, and I would say it again, like The Dream of the Mad Monkey, which nobody saw, it's a film which captures the strange, weird eeriness of being drawn into the all-engulfing horror of cinema in a strange way. And I thought it was actually quite profound.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it's worth watching. I mean, you probably watch anything with Toby Jones in anyway, because he is
Toby Jones. No, because he is Toby Jones.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
So you'd watch it
because he's Toby Jones. Because you know.
Yes.
Again,
that's the point I'm making.
Yes, I know. I was just finishing a sentence.
But I'm making the point that you watch anything with Toby Jones.
Yeah, but
in it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just finishing your sentence.
Well, I don't want you to finish my sentence.
But that's
I was
what
trying
we
to finish
do.
It myself.
You say something and then I finish it.
I would have liked a final flourish at the end.
What? It's not. I can't do this because I can't. I'll tell you what we'll do on the. No, we can't even discuss it on the podcast.
No,
in a couple of weeks. What do you mean you'd like a final flourish? I'm sorry. I think the third act is completely coherent and could not get any more final or flourishing than it does.
I agree with last week's guy.
Now you're James Boy King's best mate.